Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw for Virtual Vacation Events, the new age of luxury. And we're here today with an excellent panel of some of the top names in luxury cruising. And it's a panel that's titled The New Age of Luxury Cruising and How to Sell It. And we literally have the heads of every single major luxury line around. And we're very happy and thankful that they could participate. And I'm going to introduce them, and then we're going to go straight into the questions. And so first we have Josh Leibowitz, and raise your hand, there you go, who is the president of Seabourn. We have Mark Conroy, who's the managing director, Silversea Cruises. Raise your hand, Mark, there you go. Many of your agents know all these folks, but Jack Anderson, who's the president, Crystal Cruises. And Jason Montague, who's the president of Regent Seven Seas Cruises. And last but not least, Bob Lepisto, president of SeaDream Yacht Club. Again, thank you all for participating, and we're going to go right into the questions. Let's start off. How has the pandemic changed luxury cruising, if at all? And what is going to change with the physical product you offer? We're going to start with you, Jason. How about that?
Perfect. It's been a challenging year, and we couldn't be more thankful of everything the travel partners have done for us. It's interesting to look at luxury cruising and how it's evolving right now. It plays really well into, unfortunately, what's happened, but what really differentiates luxury cruising, it's the space. It's the high staff to guest ratios. So everything that luxury cruising is all about really caters to this type of environment of making sure that when you go and you travel, you can travel in a safe and fantastic way at the same time. Mm-hmm. That way luxury cruising really excels at. So we're excited, when you look at what's going to change about it, hopefully the changes are more short-term and orientated, where we're requiring fully vaccinated guests and crew in order to cruise, as well as there's going to be some social distancing and potentially face mask wearing. But these are all evolving as we speak right now. And so until we get a little bit closer to when we sail, we're not going to start sailing until September, when we're going to relaunch the Splendor, Seven Seas Splendor, who's our newest ship. And so the protocols are going to continue to evolve over time, but we always take the safety of our guests, the crew, the communities we visit of utmost importance. And so we're always going to be focused on that, and they're going to evolve over time.
No, excellent. And I was curious about that because you are starting into September, so things can change. So let's talk to you, Bob Lepisto. What about SeaDream?
Well, it's this entire pandemic has been kind of a situation for all of us, onward through the unknown. Nothing is defined. And just as Jason indicated, you have to be flexible. You got to be there with contingency plans. At the current time, we're planning on operating at the end of June, and then for the Mediterranean season into July, August, and in September, October, prior to coming back to the Caribbean. But that could also change. We're optimistic we're going to be able to operate, but only time will tell. We too, from the standpoint of protocols, are going to be very strict with our protocols. We'd rather not have masks on our little yachts, but they're going to be required when we start, along with vaccinations for all on board as we start cruising.
Yeah, well, I know vaccinations seem to be the thing now that everybody is going to require them. Let's, Josh Leibowitz, tell us a little bit about what your feeling is at Seabourn about how the pandemic has changed luxury cruising.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously it's been on hold, so that's probably the biggest change we've seen to the industry. But we've continued to innovate the onboard experience. So we start in July with 2 different products. We'll be in the Caribbean and we'll be in Greece. And what we're hearing from our guests is 90+% of them are already vaccinated. We will require vaccinations for the guests, and we are in the process of vaccinating the crew as other players are on this line. Mm-hmm. I can't think of a better way to take a holiday than on one of these incredible luxury experiences of these leaders on the call. We're differentiated from other products around the world, whether it's luxury hotels, certainly other cruise experiences. And that, as Jason said, you have a smaller space, you have all the luxuries of being able to travel in a beautiful way with all the staff and support you need. And so, in many ways with these protocols, you cannot anywhere in the world touch these protocols. It's mind-boggling. You can go down to a nightclub here in Miami, 3,000 people, literally. in a nightclub, open, no masks, just straight away. Who knows if people are vaccinated or not? And yet you can come on one of our ships with, in the case of Seabourn, 264 to 600 people, depending on what ship you're on, and you know everyone around you is vaccinated. It's the best place to be in the world.
Well, yeah, it's funny because you just mentioned that up here in New York, they're talking about requiring people to have their vaccination cards to go into nightclubs. So we'll see what happens. And now for your ships, you are going to have some kind of thing, and whether that's a vaccination card or some other identification, we'll have to see. Mark, let's go to you, and what's your view? And we have talked about this before about how the pandemic has changed luxury cruising at all. What's going to change with the physical product you offer?
Well, the physical product, I don't want to repeat because we're all kind of in the same boat, no pun intended, where there's going to be protocols. We're going to try to make it so you're not checking into a hospital. But for instance, I would imagine that particularly in the beginning, the staff and the staff will all have masks and gloves on all the time, where our plan is you can't social distance and we'll ask you to put on a mask. But that's all still pending. But I think more importantly, the way the market's changed. Our consumers, they're people my age who was the rest of their life shorter than the life they've already had. And they've lost a year and a half of their life. And these are people that travel as much as 150 to 200 days a year. So what I'm thinking of is that more than ever, particularly the customer that's an addicted cruiser or just an addicted traveler is going to want to jump on the ships. And we're seeing, and like everybody else is seeing, where they used to buy one of our 10-day cruises, they're buying two of them. Even if it's a repetitive itinerary, all of us have launched long cruises and pretty well sold them out. So I think what's going to happen is it's kind of changed the psyche of the consumer to think more about planning their trips, having that wander list and making sure that you visit it before you kick the bucket.
Right.
And then secondly, having a great time because, in the last year, people have just wasted a ton of time. And these are people that have time, not as much time as they have money. So other than wasting their time, their money, the one thing they hate the most is wasting their time. So they're going to be really looking at where they're going, how they're getting there, how they're treated when they're there. And so it's just so important. And as somebody said, I think Josh said before, these people have been vaccinated. They were first in line, not because they wanted to be first in line to get vaccinated, because they wanted to start traveling again. And I think that's really the key element for all of us. And it's a great sign for some people who maybe in the past have been maybe reluctant to take a luxury ship because they didn't know the features and the benefits and all those things. Will move now from some of the bigger ships and also from land destinations. Right now we're seeing about 60% of our bookings that are coming in right now are new to us, which surprises the hell out of me because I thought it'd be, we're like the other lines, we run about a 60% repeat factor. And so I thought we'd have more past passenger Venetian Society members. But I think what's happened to some of them is they've held back because they've canceled now and rebooked for the third or fourth time. So they're waiting till we really sail. And I think that's one of the things that we're all also excited about. Most of us are sailing sometime between June and September.
Right.
Because once we're back in the water, these people now can believe that we're actually going to sail in 2022, which is really, really important to all of us.
No, absolutely. Now, Jack, I'll ask the question in a different way, for picking up on what Mark said. What has changed really from the pandemic for your guests, for your passengers? I mean, are you seeing them coming back strong? Are they a little hesitant? I know you already have cruises scheduled, but what do you see from Crystal's point of view?
Like Mark, we were quite surprised at the percentage of new to Crystal. They're not new cruisers, but they're new to our brand. To your original question, I think for all of the people on this panel and luxury cruising, it's what's not changed because of the pandemic. And that's that all of our ships are socially spacious by design, with very significant space ratio for guests and high ratio of crew to care for them. So the service, the entertainment, the speakers, the gracious service, the alternative dining rooms to distribute people throughout the ship, those things aren't changing. I think that the luxury brands are perfectly positioned to invite both their past guests and new to brand into a very safe environment, as the others have said, with guests and crew being vaccinated, and no better way to travel.
No, absolutely. Now stick with you, Jack, because one of the things that's happened, and Jason and Josh alluded to it, is that you're starting to schedule cruises from other parts of the world using sort of more foreign home ports as kind of we're waiting for the U.S. to finally get going. It looks like that'll happen. I'm not exactly sure when. Nobody seems to know. Probably later this summer. Do you think the trend of home porting in other foreign ports will continue beyond the pandemic? I know you have already announced plans. I know Bahamas and a few others. But what do you think of that trend? Is it going to keep going?
The luxury lines have not concentrated in North America.
Right.
The very nature of our itineraries they're diverse and they're exploratory throughout the world. So for luxury ships, they've always moved from port to port, and predominantly foreign ports. So it's not so much of a change. The fact that we're starting in the Bahamas is primarily because we wanted to launch an itinerary that was one country. That simplifies all of the processes of approval and protocols and coordination with the government. And then the new endeavor will be sailing Iceland, again, one country. That makes startup easier, but eventually I expect all of us are going to go back to the luxury itineraries, which want to take people throughout the world, and in a way where people can combine cruises, because we all experience that too. We may have a 7-day, a 10-day, a 12-day, but we have people that just buy the entire segment because it's non-repetitive. So worldwide ports of call is nothing new for luxury.
Sure.
And it's fundamental to the definition.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it was interesting. And I do want to ask the others on the panel about where they're starting at this point. Josh, where's Seabourn starting again? You mentioned it.
July 3rd, we'll be out of Athens. We'll be doing 14-day itinerary, 7 and 14 days out of Athens. And then July 18th, we'll be out of Barbados. And in the case of Seabourn, we always have a season in Barbados.
Right.
So that season is very popular. It's Southern Caribbean, as Jack said. If you fly from Miami or New York down to Barbados, you're 2 days closer to the Antilles than if you sailed from Miami. But no, 2 days at sea is completely fine. People love it, but that gives you 6 ports on a 7-day and 12 on a 14 versus 3 to 4 on a 7-day open jaw. And then you come back, or if you do a 10, 11 back and forth. So I don't know that there's a pattern to draw, as Jack said. Whether we're always sailing from all over the world. We don't even call them foreign ports. We call them ports that people want to go to wherever they are around the world. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more Miami traffic this winter anyway. I suspect there'll be quite a lot, actually. But we'll see what turns out with these rules. Are these rules consistent with what you can do in the rest of society in the U.S.? It's a big gap right now that's got to be closed.
Absolutely.
If I can interrupt, James,
Sure.
The reason we're all starting out of other places is because they welcomed us. They're willing to work with us. If the CDC doesn't change the vaccination, which it looks like they're doing, otherwise their protocols were in. You couldn't operate them. So now they're starting to come along. So it's helping us. I'm going to nominate the Minister of Tourism for Greece to the CLIA Hall of Fame this year, because without him, he got the ball rolling in all these other countries, because people are saying, well, why the hell can Greece do it and the US can't do it and Iceland can't do it? So he's really started and Israel too, have really started the ball rolling for all of us.
But the order of conversation, to build on what Mark's saying, is Minister of Tourism, Minister of Health, not Minister of Health, Minister of Tourism, which is what's going on in the U.S., which is CDC, which is not even a Minister of Health. It's Center for Disease Control.
Yeah.
Right. So the order is MOT to MOH. In the U.S., it's just stuck at the CDC.
Well, that's because, Josh, we never had a minister of tourism. That's one of the challenges we've had for years.
They're called state governors. They're called, these are people that are trying to support their states. To look at Alaska.
Yeah, no, I actually met the Minister of Tourism for Greece, nice guy, down at the World Travel and Tourism Council, and I'm hoping to get an interview with him because clearly he has been at the forefront of getting.
Got to save his country. Got to save his country.
Absolutely. Now, Jason, what are your thoughts on this in terms of starting from home ports? You are starting from a home port, but you would probably do that anyway, right?
We're actually launching the Splendor with an existing itinerary that's been on sale for multiple years. So our goal has been to try to keep what our customers have booked and have been waiting to go on as much as possible. So with Splendor, it's Southampton round trip, and then Southampton Barcelona is the next cruise. They're already pretty much sold out. As well as the next ship, the next itinerary after that in October from Barcelona. But we do have some availability later on in Europe. But again, we stuck to the existing schedule, and she's not coming back to the U.S. until November, which hopefully, as Josh was talking about, there's a big disconnect that has to be resolved and corrected. But the good thing is, mostly from the luxury standpoint, minus Alaska, which we're all missing, and it's a terrible thing that Alaska hasn't been able to carry on the season now for two years, and it's closing on the bigger ships as well right now. But outside of that, we don't come back until the middle of the fourth quarter, so we have time.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case. And Bob, you actually tried to start cruising out of Barbados last year. I was actually supposed to be on that ship, but my good friend Gene Sloan was the guinea pig for that, and unfortunately it didn't make it. But I assume you're hopeful that this will not happen again.
No, for sure. I mean, to the point of flexibility, we were the only one that was successful in being able to operate last summer with 22 voyages in Norway for Norwegian, Danish, and Finnish folks only. But again, as I think Mark indicated, it was because the country of Norway permitted us to have an exemption to operate in the way that we did, and it worked very, very successfully. The Barbados situation was a challenge, and it came down to one couple via Miami choosing not to follow protocols, and while they tested negative prior to joining the voyage and getting on board during the voyage, unfortunately, one individual did come down with COVID. From the standpoint of this season, we're looking forward to starting in Italy, Croatia, and Greece as well. And again, for all of us, it has to do with being flexible and being able to change. And with a little tiny yacht our size and a company our size, fortunately, we're able to be very adept at making the changes necessary. We're going to provide our guests the best itinerary possible based on the situation we're confronted with at the time. And there could be, for all of us, I think, there could be last minute required changes in order to deliver, the best experience possible for the guests.
But vaccination cruises make it so much simpler. The whole idea of the bubble cruises, we were all going to try it. But the problem is, you just pointed out, Bob, is that you get one person who decides not to follow the rules. Then you can't say it. And if they can't keep it out of Elysee Palace and number 10 Downing or the White House, how the heck do you think we can keep it out? And if you look at like Royal, they've operated all those cruises in Singapore because the Singaporean government has worked very closely together with them. And they've had very few cases out of about 500,000 people they've carried. But vaccinations just make it so much easier because even if somebody does become ill, the illness isn't what it was if you weren't vaccinated.
Exactly.
The problem is zero. You can't have right. You cannot have an expectation that anywhere in the world where you have a RNA-based molecular test to sequence someone's saliva that you're going to have zero cases. I mean, we know that if you adjust the frequency of amplification on the test, you can detect it in people that had it a year ago. So you're never going to get to zero. So we have to have a progression in the industry where if you have cases, it's not game over. And I feel bad for what happened on the SeaDream in Barbados, because it's mind-boggling. Because back and forth on all those planes from those islands at the same time, you out of 250 people on a 730, you probably had at least a 5 to 10% penetration of COVID, but no one knew about it.
Right.
Things keep flying, and you sit next to someone in 16A who happens to have COVID, and you never know it.
Yeah.
Maybe you get it and maybe you don't.
Josh, as you mentioned earlier, though, there is going to be no safer way to travel than on a cruise ship that is requiring 100% vaccines. There's just no place on earth that's safer.
If you do the math, Jason, and our teams, and you've had them too, we've all been working together with these universities. You take the math on probability of somebody having it times probability of somebody getting through the screen, okay, times probability of you getting it when you have a vaccine, it really should be so small. And the risk,
buy a lottery ticket instead.
By the way,
you guys mentioned
this morning. I did this morning.
There you go. I know. We all have that. Let me go get mine.
That's my hedge. Just so you know.
Now, one of the things about if somebody does get it, it's also the protocols you follow so that maybe you can keep going. If, Jack, what is the Crystal doing? For example, let's say somebody gets it. Do you have everything in place so that you can get them off the ship or, isolate them? When we used to have just norovirus, people got isolated. But now this is a little different.
Yeah, for all of our ships in restartup, we have reduced voluntarily the capacity under which we will sail and designated a block of staterooms as quarantine rooms that have separate ventilation. So both from a crew and a guest point of view, if there is a case or cases, we will have quarantine rooms for them. We've enhanced our medical staff, increased the staff, increased the testing, and work with each government and the local communities in terms of being able to disembark people that may need to go to a hospital.
Right.
And all of those procedures are being put in place with the countries that we're visiting in startup.
No, so you have everything in place for that's great. Now, I did start corollary to that question is what has this period brought in terms of maybe a positive sign, innovations that you've made to your product while we've been in this pause for cruising? What in terms of itineraries you offer, in terms of the onboard services, and obviously that we've been talking about the health and safety features. Jason, what have you discovered? What's been the positive that came out, if there was?
Well, there definitely is positives out of this. One area that is a big positive is online check-in and how we completely reinvented how we do that to move guests through the process faster. It's always been a little bit of a pain point for any cruise line as far as getting people on and off the ship. So we definitely improved on that. We added to our leading all-inclusive and have free laundry now. So now guests don't have to worry about using the laundriettes. In the short term, I know there's guests that love doing it. They love some go there and socialize. But in the early days, we're including it, and it's always going to be a staple of the Regent brand, having free laundry now moving forward. We've had time to revamp our recipes. We have 200 new recipes that are going to roll out when we get ready back to sailing. So we use the time as wisely as we could to make sure we're always looking at ways of enhancing the overall experience for our guests.
Yeah. Josh, same question. How did Seabourn use this time, and what innovations did you figure out?
Yeah, one of the things we've done during this time is actively and proactively manage the incredible culture of the brand. We think of ourselves sort of the Seabourn family, and we have a whole method of staying in touch with team members on board and also at home, and have instituted something we call Seabourn Moments. So we do Seabourn Moments already for guests, special moments. Jason comes on board. We'll have to have you on, Jason. And we remember the way he likes his cappuccino, and so we've asked the team members to do the same for each other. This is not an easy time to be on board these ships. I was on a ship a couple of weeks ago. I had the chance to go on the Odyssey here in Fort Lauderdale, and it's amazing how well people have kept their spirits up, but these ships were made to keep guests on, and you walk through the halls and you see the suites and you think to yourself, boy, these halls should be full. So we've tried to keep the culture up. Now we've innovated, as Jason suggested, recipes and menu items. I think people's diets have probably adjusted in terms of how they eat and what they eat. And obviously looking at our itineraries and places people are going to want to go, releasing itineraries much further out in advance, as many of my industry colleagues have done, 22, 23, 24. So you see these things probably here to stay. We are by far, as an industry, every single one of us on this call, the very best value in travel. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I don't know last time I had free laundry, I think when I was a teenager growing up at my house, I had free laundry. Okay. So, that's pretty, remarkable. So these kinds of values, you just don't get you don't get anywhere. So we'll continue to emphasize that value in vacation.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Now, Mark, the same question, but also, talk about a little bit of, I know everyone here or many of the folks here have had a great experience with, world cruises and things like that has really, all of a sudden all your booking, like to beat the band for world cruises and things like that. I know you've had that, right?
Yeah. First of all, the other thing we all have done is that we've always looked at our ventilation systems, because obviously there is an important there. But since this is, I think we've even had more emphasis on it, and we've rerouted some ventilation, and we've expanded the hospital. We've created the isolation rooms. We've done everything that has been recommended by the Healthy Sailing Panel. And I even like to mention that even the electrostatic mats on the gangway, so when you walk across the gangway, it kills any bacteria or viruses on your feet. That's the detail we've gone. And as it relates to world cruises, I think it goes back to what I said before. We had a lot of customers that took a lot of long cruises, but they always making that commitment to take that full world cruise is a real jump. And I think, again, what people are saying to themselves is, how much longer can I put this off?
Right.
Why don't I take it now? So we've noticed a couple things about our world cruise. Obviously, we have a core of world cruise customers that we could just cruise around the Caribbean and not visit any place, and they would still show up. But what's happened now is that we've got a new group of people that haven't been on a world cruise before, but always had it kind of on their list to do. And it was kind of interesting, because for those people, you have to really drive a very unique itinerary in order to get them to buy into it. And just think about the rest. The one guy that, he calls me up and he sails with us a lot, but never more than 10, 15 days at a time. And he said, geez, I'm not sure if my wife can stand to be with me for 137 days. What do you think?
So especially now that they've been with each other for the past year.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why, because they were.
That's a reduction. That'd be a reduction in time.
Yeah. If you live in New York, for sure, there's no doubt about it. So I think that has a lot to do with it. People, plus, if you're affluent and you're in the market, you first of all haven't spent the money to travel the 180 days last year, so you've probably saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then secondly, you've done pretty well in the market. So, and then, the other interesting thing, and these people are amazing how they manage their money. My guy, one of my best customers, tells me the amount of money he spends on us depends on the forced distribution that he has from his retirement funds, from 401ks and things. So that's kind of how he plans his trips, based on when he's going to get his next distribution from his 401k. Even though he says, I don't really want to take it, but they're forcing me to take it. And if I'm going to pay taxes on it, I'm going to goddamn use it. So.
So he's doing it. Bob, the same question in terms of innovations, the positives that came out of this.
Yeah, we've got both yachts have been in Ålesund, Norway. Our owners from Oslo, Atle Brennestad. But right now, SeaDream 2 is in an extensive dry dock in Lisbon. And I'm not at liberty right now to talk about exactly what we're doing, but it's exciting, and the entire.
Well, just between us, Bob. But we won't tell.
No,
we won't
exactly.
tell
just tell Jason. Just tell Jason. I will listen.
No, exactly. No, the entire SeaDream family is very excited about what's taking place, and look forward to having our guests delighted and coming back. Yeah. I would simply say that, and it's true for all of us, the pent-up demand is incredible. And, we have some fits and starts going on, but the booking curve that we're seeing for all of us, and, my encouragement to all advisors is reach out and call your clients, because they are absolutely looking forward to your call. They want to make these future decisions. We all have incredibly lenient policies on being able to rebook for the future and so forth. So now is the best time in the world to book future voyages, because the demand is going to very quickly outstrip the supply of product that we all have to offer. And, it's coming soon. So those
especially because a lot of you have these FCCs that, they're going to book in, and then you're going to have new customers and things like that. But that actually leads to my next question, and I'm going to go with you, Jason. How should travel advisors be selling your cruises now and in the future? Has anything changed in a fundamental way about how they should sell luxury cruising? That's for Jason. Did we just freeze him?
He looks frozen.
Okay. Yeah, he's frozen.
Let me see what I can do. Give me a second.
I'll start from
I
that.
kind of like that look on him, though.
Very pensive, yeah. Do you want to pause while he comes back on and then ask the question, or do you want to?
Well, what I'll do is, if you can get to him and say, can he rejoin? And what I'll do is I'll start the question for somebody else, and by the time he gets back in, we'll hopefully get him. Okay. Yeah, he just dropped out. There he is. Okay.
I'm back.
You're back. All right. I'm going to go from that question that I was about, if you heard it. We'll just go from there, and Alan will cut it from there. Okay.
Jason, that was great. Thank you for coming back.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you all.
Let me start from the top. Ready? So that sort of leads into the next question I was going to ask, which is, how should travel advisors be selling your luxury cruises now and in the future? Has anything changed in a fundamental way about how they should sell luxury cruising? Jason, we'll go with you.
Yeah, I think there's never been a better time to sell luxury right now. And Bob was leading into this. This space, the luxury space, always had this biggest conception problem with it, where some travel partners didn't realize that they actually have luxury travelers already in their database, but they just haven't been selling luxury to them. And so there's never been a better time to look at it. They always get scared of that high price point, but when you really look at everything we all include, and the luxury space by default is very inclusive, with Regent probably leading the way with everything we include, the price point is definitely relatively similar. So it's never been a better time and a value. And Mark hit on this earlier too. What people don't have is time, and they realize it now more than ever. So if you're not speaking to your guests on a regular basis, this is the absolute best time to do it, and realize they cannot get that time back. So if you're going to put them on a vacation, make sure you're putting it where they can really maximize that investment, because this is an investment. This is an investment in experiences that they will never, ever forget or be able to do again. And so there's never been a better time to book.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jack, let's go for that same question. What are you telling travel advisors today about how to sell your product and how they should sell luxury cruises in the future?
Well, the thing that we found is when we ask new to Crystal guests, how did they get and choose Crystal for their cruise? It's like 90% will tell us it's a recommendation from a friend or relative. That's number one. And number two is a recommendation from their travel advisor. So, as Jason was saying, there's a lot more luxury potential customers out there than they may be introducing themselves to. The guests on a first Crystal cruise, their last cruise was Holland America, Princess, Celebrity, not these other luxury brands. They all do such a good job that their customers are happy and repeat. The opportunity is to move up the upper category purchasers in the premium brands to luxury.
Right.
And the best way to do that is to identify those people that they have that have sailed on Crystal and ask them, tell me the clubs you belong to, the charities you belong to. I'd like to join and talk to them. I have clients that can present a question and answer about the Crystal Cruise experience because they are more passionate and more articulate to overcome objections and convince people to take their first Crystal Cruise. It's friends and relatives. And you need, as a travel advisor, you need to get those people to be your advocate and then also advocate their friends and relatives to book through you on their next luxury cruise.
Well, actually, you have to become their friend. So not only your travel advisor, you are their friend, and you can recommend all these great luxury lines. Now, Josh, I want to go with you.
Great service.
Yeah, absolutely. Great service. Josh, I want to go with you. What are you telling travel advisors today during this period about how to get back online and not just use those FCCs for their clients, but, get new bookings?
I mean, first of all, it's been a challenging time for the travel advisors, as it has been for so many people in the travel business. So really had no source of earnings over the past year. So this is the moment now to be leaning into this product, which has higher commission rates than any other form of travel, period. So if people want to earn, this is the opportunity to earn. Many guests, as we've talked about on this call today, they need as much as any other time, someone to hold their hand through the process and help them understand the opportunities and the options. I sure hope our travel advisors out there are spending less time worrying about whether to sail on Seabourn or Silversea or Crystal or Regent, and much more time on why sail as opposed to the George Sanka in Paris. That's the difference that we have to focus on. Mm-hmm. And there's so many more hotel rooms you probably pick 4 European cities with more luxury hotel rooms than all of us here on this line for global travel. So that's really, and by the way, the commission opportunity on booking a cruise on those is so much higher than a few nights in a hotel. Mm. So it's a great time to be selling. It's a great time to be selling cruise. We're all still growing. I mean, Seabourn has 20+% capacity growth over the next 2-3 years with our expedition ships. That's an entirely new class of experience. Right. We can go anywhere in the world on these ships, literally anywhere in the world, 9 months out of the year. And so we're looking forward to taking people to all over the world. So it's a great time to be selling cruise. And this is the moment to be booking and booking in advance.
Great. Absolutely. Now, Mark, you never talk to any travel advisor, so I don't know why I'm bothering to talk to you. But yeah, what would you tell them if you actually talk to one?
Well, the first thing I always say, if you're not talking to them, somebody else is. So you don't have a client until they don't travel with you anymore. So if you're not talking to them, because these are people that are identifiable, they live in a nice home area, they drive an interesting car, they travel quite a bit. So the credit card companies know who they are. So these are people that are being talked to. And by the way, it can't always be a sales pitch, but it has to be a conversation. At first, just icebreakers. When the pandemic was going on, it was probably improper to send somebody an offer on a cruise because people are dying, right? And so it's really hard to separate that. But now, first of all, we're coming out of it. There's hope on the horizon. Then you can start having the conversation to get them more engaged. But it's more like planning. I like to use Ann Scully as a great example, and she's a customer of all of ours. She produces a lot of business, and how she does it is she's their trusted planner. They trust her as much as they trust her accountant or their lawyer. And so, I've known this for since the 80s. I've known her, and she always did that. As she was closing the sale, she'd say, "Well, let's not talk about that trip anymore. What are you going to be doing next year at this time? I've got this great trip that I think you should take," and get them into this process of planning. It goes back to return on investment, right? Because they are investing money in their vacation. And if you're going to get a decent return, I don't know, some of us invest our stock directly, but if I didn't have the two guys that manage my portfolio, I would not be as well off as I am today because I never get around to doing it myself. So it's the same with travel. If you don't have a good advisor, you're not going to get the best return on your investment. And that's how the travel industry should be selling the whole concept of travel advisors. And I think part of this epidemic and everything that's happened is getting us closer to that than it was before, because it's gotten a lot of amateurs out of the business. People that were part-timers that were just there to maybe get cruise benefits. And so the people that have hung in there because they got a decent book of business, have a good sense of reality, and want to continue to travel themselves.
Absolutely. Now, we're down to the last question here. I'm going to ask each of you in turn and try to keep it tight here. First of all, is there a new luxury for cruising in post-pandemic era, if whatever you want to define it? And second of all, if there's anything else you want to tell travel advisors at this point? We're going to start with you, Bob.
The one thing I would add to the advice from selling standpoint, from a SeaDream standpoint, one very interesting development I have seen is private charters where families want to get together for a major family reunion, or someone's going to celebrate a 80th or 70th or 60th birthday. I love sending travel advisors commission checks for $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 for.
No, they don't like those. I don't know.
They don't like those. No, for simply reaching out and saying, have you thought about a private charter? Bring your whole family. And, it's just great. The recent past, I've seen more and more private charters take place. It used to be almost all incentive business, but now many, many charters are being sold by travel advisors who really take the initiative and reach out and sell the idea.
No, that's great advice. Josh, the same question. Is there a new luxury, and what else do you want to tell travel advisors out there?
First trip that we see everybody taking from our research is something we call a hugging trip. You go hug grandkids and family members. Second trip is a luxury trip. And for me, the new definition of luxury travel is actually being able to travel. It's a great time to plan a trip and be ready to go out and travel. There's no better way than this kind of experience. You can see the ocean, fresh, beautiful air. Everybody needs some time off. We've decided to focus this summer on two gorgeous oceans, the Southern Caribbean and the Aegean. And we're very excited to welcome people back. And if people are ready to travel, they should. If they're not, as my colleagues on the call have said from the other cruise lines, pick something further out and get something booked. This is the only time in history, or recent history, where that no one has traveled in the past year and a half.
Absolutely.
So the number of trips that are out there to be taken will far exceed the supply. If you don't know what you're doing this summer already, it's time to plan.
Absolutely. Mark, last word here in terms of what you tell the travel advisors and what they should be doing, heading out now.
Well, I think it's more of the same. It's in contact with your customers. Ask them for referrals. All of us get referrals, and it's why it keeps us in business. Because, once you get that customer, you're going to keep them. And that's the beauty of any of our products. Once they book one of these luxury products, chances are that unless they're taking their extended family, they're not going back to a bigger ship, because what happens in our process is we don't have to teach people that cruising is a great vacation, because regardless of the size of the ship you're on, it's a great vacation, whether it's a 100-guest ship or a 5,000-guest ship. So we in luxury, we don't have to convince them that cruising is a good idea. All we have to do is convince them that cruising as one of few versus one of many, and all those features and benefits it provides really, really deliver it. So I think it's really three things. It's number one is making sure your customer understands that you're the expert. Number two is that you're putting them on the right product, and these are the reasons why. And then number three is let's look at this year, but also let's look at a 4 or 5 year plan, whether you call it a wonder list or a bucket list or whatever you want to call it, so that you don't have these years where, 1 year you're selling $1 million and the next year you're selling $500,000, because you can't, it's harder to live on that. So they need a consistent book of business in order to survive. So those are just some of the things that we could all go on for hours about different things that we've seen over time. But at the end of the day, all of our collective knowledge, at least mine has been for the 40-some years of working with travel advisors and their clients and seeing what works. And the beauty of this business is every model works. There's no perfect model. There's not every model works, but there's so many different models that you have a lot of different ones to choose from, or maybe even create your own.
Absolutely. And Jack, is sort of any words of wisdom imparting to travel advisors as we emerge from the pandemic and you want to get them selling luxury cruising again?
For Crystal, travel advisors are fundamental to painting the experience and creating the enthusiasm and holding the hand of potential luxury cruisers. So I have to start by just thanking them for all the support they have given us, for their patience, for their endurance. I can also tell you that the way Crystal prices their cruises is as the ships fill and we see demand, we raise prices. In the middle of this month, we will be increasing fares on 280 of our future voyages in 2021, 2022, and 2023. So the pent-up desire to travel is there.
Right.
And it was said before, but it's the most important thing. They need to talk to all of their clients. They need to ask for referrals from friends and relatives of their clients, because now is exactly the time to take advantage of helping people plan their next luxury cruise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Jason, we'll give you the last word here on this. Any other parting words of wisdom to travel advisors, ideas about the future of luxury cruising?
Yeah, I really think we're going into a golden age of luxury cruising right here. And the other gentlemen on the call are testaments to that, of what we're doing. The forward bookings that we're all seeing is off the charts. And so, as Jack mentioned on the Crystal side, same thing on Regent. We increase pricing on a quarterly basis, and we're pretty much increasing pricings across the board. So it's imperative that our travel partners have those conversations with their guests now. Don't wait. Things are booking up. What's going to happen is not only are they going to end up paying a higher price point, they're not going to get the itinerary or the suite they want if they wait too long. So it's imperative they have those conversations quickly. And on the Regent side, we have a promo for Europe 2022 for it's a 2-category upgrade on all Europe sailings. Now, that's going to be, we're going to start pulling some sailings up because they're booking too well.
Right.
So it's imperative, again, that we action. And then the last point I want to make is something I think all of us have experienced on board our ships is there's nothing like running into a guest the first time they come on Regent and they come up to me and say, I can't believe I wasted all those years cruising on bigger ships. I just can't believe I wasted all that time. And they're so thankful that they finally got to experience it. So our travel partners should be instrumental, and they are instrumental in that. But you got to remember that what you think might not be a luxury cruiser most likely is. So you got to always have those conversations.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank all 5 of you for participating in this panel. It's been very illuminating, and it's great that you all came together for this. I know hopefully the next time we'll all be live and in person on these panels. That's the one we all want. But hopefully all of our advisors out there watching this agree that these are some fascinating observations about luxury cruising today. I want to urge all of you advisors out there watching, first of all, go to the exhibition hall and do take a look at all the people exhibiting there. They've got some great products for you to look at. And also take a look at some of the other panels we have. We have really a stellar lineup of really people tops in the luxury field, as you can see from the evidence here of this panel. This is really the cream of the crop. This is what you expect when you're trying to decide what luxury line. It's really all of these guys have great products, and they all deliver an incredible experience. But again, I want to thank all of you for taking the time today to speak with us. And I'm James Shillinglaw for Virtual Vacation Events.